Okay. Excuse me. You ready? Welcome back to the Make It Count podcast.
I'm Marcus Mire, founder of Mire Group CPAs and the Total Control Accounting System.
And I'm Tyler Warner, small business owner with a lot of accounting questions. And I've got a lot of accounting questions today.
I thought they weren't accounting questions.
Well, we're talking about what it takes to build a tax return.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the end of the year. No one's thinking about Christmas yet. They're only thinking about one thing, and that's
Right.
tax prep, right?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, 'tis the season.
Right. For getting your documents together.
Exactly.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. So that's what this episode's about. What kind of tax prep do you need to be doing? We're going to assume all of your general accounting is up to date and zero. You've been a good little boy this year. And you're on,
Or girl.
Yeah, or girl, and you're on the nice list. And so that assumption,
Yeah.
like what else? We're talking about the other things that you might need to give to your CPA.
Yeah. So I think we're probably a little bit ahead of the game because a lot of the stuff we tell people to do kind of preemptively is the accounting piece, right? So if the presupposition is that you've been handling that, you're efficient in zero, you're working throughout the year, so that kind of piece is out the window. What I would say is you're starting to at least be thinking about the documents you're going to need that you won't receive until January. So I would start with, what documents did you give your CPA last year? What did you gather to give to him or her to do your tax returns? Mm-hmm. And just start kind of thinking, like, maybe even a quick list. I will say, kind of a quick aside, when we start the tax return process here at Mire Group, one of the things you get is a checklist of the documents you gave us last year. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't hurt to kind of on your own be thinking like, okay, these are the things I know I'm going to need. Like a lot of times people get charitable, like give charitably, and for some reason those charities don't send out receipts. It's a big thing. So just to be kind of starting to think through what are the documents I'm going to need, and generally what you provided last year is 90% of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you speak to just, and we don't want to spend too much time on here, but like you have to, like, it seems like, and you can correct me, like you don't just take people's word for like what they say about like, okay, hey, I spent this much or that much. Like there's documents, like I think a charity, like you need some proof of that, or like even if I say like, hey, we paid this much in interest this year on a loan, you're like, I need to see the bank document. Well, and I don't feel like you're interrogating me, but I'm guessing like as a CPA, do you have to have like certain records? What is the deal with that?
So wait, I'm laughing. I'm looking at you thinking because it's like it's nuanced. So I don't need any of your documents.
Oh well.
Okay. But
save an email.
So like for you guys, particularly, I don't think you'd mind me saying this. You guys are very charitable, and the one time I said to you, I said, hey, it's probably good practice for all of us, because I don't think at this point in time, maybe you guys had it or maybe you didn't, to get charitable receipts for some of these big donations you're making. And so for me, it's a materiality thing with my clients. Like you could tell me, and you did this year. You said, hey, this is what I paid in mortgage interest. Two things cross my mind when you say that. One is, do I trust the source who's telling me this to know where to get it, know how to get it, know that it's not principal and interest? Because again, the form is dummy proof. If you sent me in that example the 1098, which is what I requested, then I would know there's no ambiguity. I know I have the right number.
So banks know that.
So if I get the form, I know I have the right number. So it's nuanced because I'm relying on you. Now I'm thinking, is the person sending me the data capable of getting me the right data? Yeah. In this case, you messed the test. So I said, look, he's looking. I told him what to get. At this point, I don't want to do the CYA thing. Yeah. I don't want to be like, well, Tyler, I'm going to need you to provide that document. Yeah. Now, certain things in the tax world, we are not auditors. I think you just got to remember that. Like, I'm not auditing you, but if something looks fishy, out of whack, my ethics, professional ethics, say I need to corroborate that. But generally speaking, my clients, we only ask for the documents because they dummy-proof things. You couldn't accidentally tell me I paid $10,000 of interest when you paid $1,000. I mean, you could. Yeah. You could say I paid $10,000 instead of $1,000, whereas the form takes all the guesswork out of it.
Right.
So a lot of times, if you're getting those questions, that may seem like intrusive or like, why are they asking for this? It's generally not to piss you off, quite honestly. It's to save,
obviously,
or that, yeah. But it's quite honestly to save you from yourself.
Yeah,
it's to save you from the inevitable. Hey, why did you report that interest on my tax return? It was wrong. Well, that's what you told me in a text.
Right.
That's what it's. But at the same time, you're also going through the relationship part of your client. Going, I know this client's savvy. We've done this 20 years.
Gotcha.
They know the mortgage interest to get. And in fact, when you sent me yours, I looked at it and it was more than a year before. So that made me, always mortgage interest generally is going down. Mm-hmm. But so that made me kind of pause for a second, but it wasn't much, it wasn't enough to worry about, so I just went with it.
Yeah, and we refied, so.
Yeah, so I knew there were probably some other factors, but you get what I'm saying in the sense that we're at least doing some critical thinking. We're not just, peppering you with questions to make the process miserable, because I guarantee you, I don't want to have to send these messages out.
No, that's different. My guess was like, as part of your accreditation or whatever, like being actually a CPA, like it was part of you had to have them on file or something. Or
I just professional ethics say, use your judgment. If something looks off, you need to ask.
If you're dealing with a wild card, just get the right information.
Correct. And maybe you shouldn't have them as a client anyway. But the first step would be start to try to see if you can kind of make heads or tails of it, because you also don't want to be adversarial with your clients. Mm-hmm. You want to, and the backdrop to all these questions I'm asking you is, I'm trying to help you take advantage of everything you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the reason I asked you, it's almost coming to a case study in your tax return. But,
here we go.
But the reason I'm asking you, like, hey, what'd you pay in your kid's tuition? I know you have a daughter in pre-K, which counts as which you get a credit for. Mm-hmm. So, like, perfect example, your CPA might go, well, because the tax year is a calendar year and the school year is not. Mm-hmm. So they might say, hey, I need you to tell me what was the portion you paid in the spring, which was your daughter's pre-K, versus the kindergarten portion, which the pre-K counts for the dependent care credit. The kindergarten doesn't. Yeah. So I think if anybody would leave with this is, if you've hired a CPA and you trust them, trust that they're asking these questions to do a good job for you. Yeah. The reason I'm asking you the question of, hey, you told me this blanket amount, but I need to know what was the spring and what was the fall, is because the spring helps you, the fall doesn't. Yeah.
So good accounting, gets you, 99% there?
Yeah, on the business side, yes. Yeah. And then if you went to, like, your personal accounting would be such that you keep records of things. You get your documents in order. Yeah. You again, kind of back to my original point, last year I asked you, what did you pay in pre-K tuition? Yeah. You have that teed up.
Yeah. So do you, because we keep our businesses, we use software, but like our personal, we just basically, it's like categorizing on a spreadsheet, right?
Yeah.
No, that's not true. We use a different software, but it's not always up to date. And anyway, but do you recommend, what I'm asking is, do you recommend using some sort of software and kind of creating categories, like a certain set of categories that are generally
like tax related?
Tax related, yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but that's probably a good idea. Like if you were using any type of personal finance software, I would think it's customizable. I know we've talked about using Xero for your personal budget. You could have an expense account called kids tuition or something like that. Right. And then you would know with that question, okay, just dive in there. There are some times where the documents from the school in this example would be better. But I really do think, and this is one reason why I want to move our firm more to this. You and I were talking before the show about what's like a good experience, and one of the things I think is a really good experience is if you have access at all times to the documents you provided to me. And so I would say for us, we want to move to a system where I just point you to those and say, hey, this is really a good start. There's a checklist, but if you want to see the physical documents, like that your mortgage interest with you might have a bank account with Chase that you forget about. Oh, shoot, I got to, because it pays $20 of interest. Yeah. Oh, I got to go get that Chase interest statement. Like, I think that's a really good. And you tell me, is it on the client-facing side of that, if you were reminded maybe of a link where I could just show you, hey, Tyler, just click here, it showed you what you provided last year.
Yeah. Well, I think, you want to make that. So here's the difference, right, is that, generally accounting for the CPA and for the business owner are mostly both parties need that information, right?
Yep.
You sort of deviate from that idea on the personal side, where like you need it, but I don't.
Yep.
Meaning like I pay my mortgage every month.
Right.
I'm not, I don't need the 1085, whatever. 1098. I have, if they shredded it every month, I could care less.
Right.
Right. So that's the disconnect. So then, yeah, you obviously have to make that one. You don't know what you don't know.
Correct.
So that's the first thing. You got to just make sure they know.
Yeah.
This is what you need. And then, if you can make that easy to provide, all the better.
I do think, and this is almost going to become like a Q&A session where I'm asking you on the other side of the being the client. We send when we send out our tax season proposals, there's a video overview.
Mm-hmm.
It almost makes me wonder if on that video overview we should go over some of the common forms and why we ask for them. Now, admittedly, we try to make that video not 30 minutes long so people actually watch it because it goes through our process, tells you what software we use, it tells you how to work with us. But I'm always just thinking of ways to make tax better because it really is like this kind of anomaly. Like accounting has a balance sheet and an income statement, and things have to add up.
Yeah.
Personal accounting, to your point, is, oh wait, I needed to give them that document. I didn't understand that. I you know what I'm saying? So I almost think there's some education we could probably do, and I think we do a good job of it. All while straddling the line of people just say, just do my taxes. Like,
right.
So, you're kind of getting into that point of some people say, I don't care, I trust you. And some people say, why are you asking for this?
Yeah.
I think there's probably somewhere in between this happy medium of good service without overkill.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things, just so we can get into like kind of just maybe a list of generally, and maybe start with business and then move into personal?
Let's just do personal.
Okay.
Let's do personal because I think business is so different and is heavily driven by the accounting.
Okay.
So let's do personal taxes because you don't normally have a set of books personally.
Right.
Okay. So personal taxes. I would say this is the best thing you should do. The more information you provide, the better. I know a lot of other CPAs would say, well, I don't want you to give me documents I don't need. I tend to go the other way. I'd rather a client not worry, not go, should I give them this or not? Because I don't want them in the decision process of that. If it has a tax, this like when you get your W-2 in the mail and the envelope says tax information sensitive or important, if you get something like that, set it aside. Don't try to make the decision of if we need that or not. Just set it aside, scan it, upload it to us later. But I would also say things that you're not sure about. Your year-end 401k statement, your year-end IRA statement, send them. The reason is we are trying to do more holistic things with our tax clients, and a backdrop of that is we're already not working with that many people as one-offs just to do a tax return. So if that's our posture, is that we want to help you and be holistic. If I know what your 401k balance is, I can also then recommend other things to you, like, hey, if you have a traditional IRA. Good example. If you send me a traditional IRA statement, which I really don't need. If you haven't taken a distribution from your IRA, I don't need it. But if you send it to me and I notice I have $40,000 in there, and then I also know, working with you closely, that your business is in a little bit of a downturn. Maybe we're in the middle of a pandemic like we were a year ago. I might say, Tyler, you send me that IRA statement. You ever thought about converting that to a Roth? When you convert, it's a taxable event, but your income's down, so the tax isn't that big of a burden. And you get to put the money in a Roth and it saves you later. We won't get into all that. But my point is, that all came from you sending me an IRA statement that somebody else would say, I don't need that to do your tax return.
Right.
So let us vet that out on the side. Our fees are fixed. I'm not charging you any more to look through the documents. The price is what you and I agreed on when you accepted your proposal. So send me things that you might not otherwise think. I mean, don't send us, 30-page insurance contract. I mean, I think that you kind of get that, but 2 and 3 page documents or your complete brokerage statements, send them and let us sort it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of just mentioned a few things, right? Retirement information.
Anything. So W-2s, let's go through them. W-2s, obviously. 1099s from interest on bank accounts or dividends. Your brokerage 1099, everybody's seen those, what they call like a consolidated 1099, which would be something from a taxable account, not from your retirement. Because again, most people, you don't pay tax on your retirement until you pull the money out. So the only thing coming from a retirement plan would be a 1099-R. It's a distribution form.
Okay.
But like your TD Ameritrade is a good example. Like you go and you put 20 grand in I'm gonna, you've heard people say, I'm gonna play the stock market. I'm gonna go trade some stocks.
Yeah.
Well, obviously we need that consolidated 1099, which shows, excuse me, what you sold things for, if you had capital gains, if you got dividends. Don't be one of these people who sends a 10-page document and we can see the bottom right corner says 1 of 10, 2 of 10, and you send us 7 of the pages. You will get an email saying, hey, can you send us pages 6, 9, and 10? Because again, sometimes clients take things out that they deem not important and they don't know. Just send us all 10 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But 1099s, obviously those are people are familiar with that. Your property taxes you pay on your personal residence, normally that's included on your mortgage interest form, which is a 1098. Your charitable donations, big one. All the receipts you can get from your charitable organizations. Quick aside on that, make sure that those receipts say that you got nothing in exchange. A charitable donation is only good. It's only in excess of it's deductible to the extent you didn't get anything in exchange. Meaning, if you go to an auction, like a
plate lunch.
God. Listen, it's just a whole. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like when you buy a $5 plate lunch as a fundraiser.
Yeah, it's not a fundraiser. Yeah, you got a plate lunch. Yeah, you're exactly. Yeah, that's it.
I'm what, Marcus?
Oh, sorry,
exactly
sorry.
right.
Please, can we edit that? Can we have that capability?
Yeah.
No, that's a great example. I didn't follow you. You're exactly right. Like if you get, it's called the quid pro quo. Basically, if I buy a piece of art that's worth $1,000, but I pay $2,500 to support the charity, only the $1,500 excess is charitable.
Gotcha.
Whole point is, I'm not trying to get in charitable donations, is you should have receipts basically attesting to that. Normally, your church tithe says that, or your receipt says you got nothing but intangible religious benefits. So just be looking for that language. Your K-1s, so if you're a partner in an S corporation or a partnership, like we talked about, which is a flow-through entity, those entities don't pay the tax. They pass on the income to their underlying partners and shareholders. You need to be, if you've gotten a deal this year, this is a good thing to think about. You may not be able to file your tax return. You don't have your K-1 yet. You're at the mercy of that entity filing its tax return.
Right.
You know this very well.
Yeah. Again with the case study.
Right. Again, I feel like we need to change the name of this episode.
Yeah, to how Tyler gets his taxes done every year.
In December. But yeah, I mean, so if you got in a deal, formed a company with people, or you invested, you need to wait on that K-1. You can't file, so that could be new for certain people.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the big ones.
Yeah. All right. So what are some other things that are new this year?
Yeah, the big thing is, and I think a lot of people are getting this, are these advanced child tax credit payments.
Okay.
So advanced child tax credit. So in July, kind of in the middle of the pandemic, or toward the end of it, I guess. I don't know. Are we still in it? I don't even know anymore.
Yeah.
What happened was they started.
It's a state of mind.
Yeah. So they upped the child tax credit from $2,000 per child to $3,000 and I think $3,600 for a child 5 and under. Okay. But they said to help people, we're going to advance you half of that credit over 6. So let's put some math to it. If you have let's just say you have a child that's 10, you're going to get and you make under a certain threshold.
Yeah, and there's people literally got checks in the mail.
They get direct deposits.
Yeah.
So you would get, in that example, you would get a $3,000 child tax credit when you file your 2021 tax return. But they said, well, let's give you half of it starting in July to December. We'll give you $1,500 over 6 months. So in that example, that's $250 a month. Okay. But it's an advance. So when you file your tax return, you have to say, I already received some of this. You have to reconcile it. Really important. You won't get the $3,000 child tax credit in that example. You'll get $1,500 because they've already given you $1,500. Right. But you have to know that number to provide to your CPA so they can reconcile that on your tax return, because you could be owed more or less. So you need to understand that, and you should be getting a letter shortly in January about that. And then also, if you got the third stimulus payment, you need to know that again, because those stimulus payments are kind of like the child tax credits, where they can give you more, but they won't take back any. But the child tax credits, you can have your credits reduced. So just be on the lookout in early January. But also, if you could just track what you got, that's great too. Just, hey, I got $200 a month for this child for 6 months.
Gotcha.
That's one of the biggest changes for 2021 taxes going into 2022.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What else? Is that it?
Small. I mean, this is small, but I'll kind of get into this itemized versus standard deduction concept. And the punchline is, if you don't itemize your deductions, meaning your charitable, your mortgage interest, your property taxes, state taxes don't exceed the deduction that the government just gives you,
right,
that you can still deduct $600 of charitable. So it might be a situation where you've never given your CPA charitable receipts because he knows you don't itemize your deductions. And he says, well, did you give to Goodwill? Did you do this or that? Because you can at least take $600 even if you don't itemize.
Yeah.
So that's something that's new.
Okay.
Well, it was $300 last year. It's now doubled.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a good spot to end it. I mean, it sounds like you just got to. When's a good time to do all this? I mean,
yeah, I think it's kind of ongoing. I mean, I know for us, we allow people in their project management software just to upload documents all the time, and the reason we do that is because we want them just to forget about things. We want them to just get their documents in and go, oh, I'll just send that to Marcus, just shoot it real quick to him.
Yeah.
So we want to make it easy. I would just say just be on the lookout. Late January is when things start kind of happening. Mm-hmm. Be ready. Look at what you provided last year. That's always a great example of what you're generally going to be asked to provide this year. Yeah. And then trust who's, the professional you've asked, that sometimes you don't have time to answer. I'm going to say this in kind of a funny way. They don't have time to answer every nuance about every question. Like, to your point, like why I'm asking for this or that. I'm more than welcome to answer those questions. But a lot of times not a lot of times, I'm doing it to help you.
Sure.
And so I think just come with that posture. Like, if you've hired a CPA to do your return and you feel like they're professional, they could be inefficient and you need to call them out on that. But if they're just asking for things or clarification, generally speaking, they're doing it to help you.
Sure.
And so,
I can't imagine there's anything a CPA loves more than surprising their client with some sort of tax savings. That's got to be on the top of the list.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on the other side of that, the worst thing is telling somebody, like, completely blindsiding them with something that they never expected. So in our industry, we always say this: expectations are everything, and communication.
Yeah.
If I told you, you were going to owe $10,000 and you owe $20,000, you're not very happy.
Right.
But if I told you were going to owe $12,000 and you owe $10,000, you love it.
Yeah.
So that just gets back to, are you working with somebody throughout the year? Because that's the kind of, if you're not, the expectations where you don't know and the provider is just your tax preparer, there's not much room where they can make a difference. The taxes are what they are.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you want more information, if you need your taxes done in 2022 for 2021, maybe go to Beard Group. They're a little more selective in who they do tax returns for.
Yeah, I would say this, just not deviate too much. If you want to work with somebody throughout the year, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
We want to work with people who want to do it better from business and personal, and so we want to work with those people. But the one-offs don't allow us to do that.
Sure.
Yeah. A little clarification.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And if you need more content, always go to Mire.group. There's tons of resources of previous podcasts and some videos there, so check those out. And if you need to get in touch with the Mire Group, you can do that there as well. All right.
All right. See you next time. Look at this payment from Valerie Warner.
There we go.